Some have said Ojeda.
Vegeta. Do you say Ojeda or Ojeda?
Ojeda.
It's like so my last name isn't actually Wildshoot, it's Vilschut.
Ooh.
But once again, someone goes, "Oh, you mean Vildscoot?" I go, "Sure." Because it just...
My last name's actually not Moss, it's Moss! Moss! Welcome to Tales from the Ditch. We have cigars sponsored by Sylvia Garcia.
Yeah, that's nice.
And
it's Sylvia Garcia. You have to do it like... She's awesome. She's super nice.
She's great. She's our biggest fan. We have beers sponsored by our guest, Jesus Ojeda. How was that?
Did you add an R at the beginning of or? It sounded like or.
Oh, I did. Ojeda?
Yeah.
Or.
I was thinking Ortega.
Jesus or
Ojeda.
Or
Jesus.
Either one.
Either
one.
Jesus Ojeda.
You're going to edit it so that when I talk, I go, Jesus Ojeda. Oh, man. And you're going to change my voice. That you're like stupid,
I'll make
ignorant
myself
Seth.
Sound smart.
Stupid racist Seth. Yeah, we got Jesus on here. And, of course, starring Sean Moss and Seth Wildshoot and Greg, the sound guy. I want to...
Actually, I got a letter of resignation from Greg.
Which this is creepy. All right. Jesus, so someone actually left us a letter signed by... Let's look at this.
All right, you want to read
it all out?
So it says... here, I'll take it off.
And we don't know who left this for us, so that's kind of interesting or creepy.
Nice.
Someone's going to murder us. They'll say, like, no one else can have you and then kill us.
It's a little creepy that at some point somebody was in my backyard without me knowing about it.
Wow.
So I got into the shed to set up for this podcast tonight, and there's a folded piece of paper that says, a handwritten note from Greg the sound guy. And when you open it up, it's typed. It says, Sean and Seth, I was deeply hurt by your recent comments during the podcast with a so-called guest named Mike Mumford. Just because I'm not in the same room doesn't mean you should pretend not to be my friend or say I'm not a real person. I hope in the future you can have the heart to say that I do exist and am, in fact, a real person and have feelings and like to do things and have other friends too. From Greg the sound guy.
You suck, Greg. All right? I just want to say
First of all, this is petty and arrogant, I feel like. And second of all, who let you in my yard?
We made you, Greg. All right, so, Jesus, can I tell? So I know you from, wow, I'm turning away. I gotta look at him. I gotta make eye contact.
Eye contact.
Soul care, man.
Eye contact.
I just do this, just stare at him. Creepy ass. So I know you from downtown going to church together. I know some of your family through just different things that have happened in school district and even transportation. Where did you grow up? Can I tell maybe about your family, your kids? Have you always been in Nevada? Are you from somewhere else? Because some people came here from the East Coast. Some people are born on the West. Some were Midwest. Just tell them a few things about them. Like, where'd you grow up predominantly?
Okay, so I was born in Mexico originally. My family migrated up here when I was about 3 years old.
Do you know what part of Mexico?
Yes. It's Morelia, Michoacan.
Nice.
But in more specific, well, that's where I was born, but where we're from, it's a small town. It's gotten bigger throughout time. It's called Tejaro.
Okay.
Don't know it.
Okay.
But, yeah, we migrate. Well, my dad actually came up here first. He was up here a couple years before we were. And when I was born, actually, he was up here, so I didn't know him the first couple years. My mom used to tell me that I hated him. Whenever he would come back and visit us, that I would tell her to get this stranger out of our house and that I didn't want him here.
Jeez.
So... And obviously, you know...
Just because you were unfamiliar with it.
Yeah. So we came up to Orange County, California when I was about 3 years old. We lived there for about... Let's see, I was 7. Yeah, 7 when we got here to Reno. So we were there about 4 years. But we tried to escape the gang life. Because the parts that we grew up in were just...
Oh, so bad Orange County.
Oh,
not
yes.
like
no, not Orange
not
County
like
that you see
Anaheim.
on MTV.
Right.
No. We got here to Reno in 95.
Okay.
And we've been here ever since.
The gangs in the area you were, did they wear red, blue? What was their... Were they Sureño, Norteño? Were they...
So down south, Sureño.
Okay.
That's it. You will not see a Norteño pass what would be Bakersfield, I would say.
Okay. Because I know it's a super interesting history of how I had friends who were telling me how the Sureños viewed Norteños and how certain South Americans viewed people who had, been a part of the American culture longer or accepted more of it, and just even the prison dynamics they have, and then you have the Mexican mafia and all stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just such an interesting story of them coming over because those gangs aren't new. They go back a while, I thought.
They go back to what I believe World War II.
Wow.
That part,
Yes.
Whoa.
With the Suit Suiters is where it originated from.
Zoot Suit Riot?
Yes.
Okay.
And so we left because my brothers got affiliated as Sureños. They were, I believe it was called Hard Timers, the gang
Oh my gosh.
down there.
How much older was he?
Well, it's 2 of them, 2 older brothers. So there's 6 siblings. There's 5 boys, 1 girl. There, I got 3 older brothers, 1 older sister. Then comes myself, and then a younger brother.
Okay.
So the oldest was like never got involved in anything. Then my next 2 brothers are the ones that got affiliated, and I mean, life was crazy.
Did they come with you to Reno?
Yeah, the whole family
okay.
came up. The whole family came up to Reno trying to escape that. We had family that had moved up here to escape that crime and violence that, I mean, we were living day in, day out.
Were they? So your brothers that were affiliated were happy to get out.
Oh, no, they were, no.
Oh, okay.
No. This was our parents trying to,
Okay. Gotcha.
get us away from that. We came up here and it just followed, honestly.
Yeah.
It wasn't as bad. I mean, nowhere near as bad, but they continued in that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Which then actually, ironically, it's crazy how it happened for me. Because I ended up becoming affiliated as a gang member too.
Okay.
But I went a whole different route. I didn't become a Sureño,
What'd you become?
a Norteño.
Oh my God! Plot
Hey,
twist. See?
I'm sorry you got punched in the eye, brother. All right.
He hit me so hard. So you were on. You got put on Gang Profile then?
Yes.
Okay. See, I'm not the only one who has that issue.
You that happened here in Reno?
Yes, in Reno. So, the way that happened, because honestly, I would have became a Sureño, because that's what my brothers influenced me as.
Sure.
And actually, they didn't give me no choice. They were like, this is what you're going to be. I grew up in neighborhoods where, as a young Hispanic, that's what I was told that I was supposed to be. That's what I learned. Since I came to the United States as a 3-year-old boy from California to Nevada, all I ever heard was that that's who I'm supposed to be. And there's nothing else for me.
For our linguistically or ethnically challenged listeners, Sureño means like southerner, right?
Yes.
And Norteño means northerner, kind of?
Yes.
Something like that?
And it's red and blue. Norteño's red, Sureño's blue. Sureño's 13, I thought. Norteño's 14, is it? Or
Yes.
no? Okay.
And so what's the... So your brothers were Sureño, you were Norteño. What... Is there like a different style or different culture besides colors, like different way they operate or anything like that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, a gang's a gang, but their structure is different. So I mean, a little story behind the difference happened back in the day in prison, where it was just the Mexican mafia, which I mean, they kind of run the Sureños inside the prison, and they were formed to protect Hispanics and Latinos from races, from racism, pretty much.
You can say whites. It's okay. We won't.
I mean, it's not just from whites. It's from whites and blacks. Because when you go to prison, you are running with your race.
Yep.
But check this out. Only with Hispanics or Latinos is there division. They don't just run with their race.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so when it comes to that group, you got what's called paisas, then you got your sureños, and then you got your norteños.
That's interesting.
Huh.
Which all are majority Hispanics and Latinos.
Huh.
But they're divided. They're one of the very few. Actually, I think they're the only race in prison that is divided between themselves.
I had no idea.
Did you and your brothers fight? Did you fight any scraps or?
Well, I fought a lot of scraps. I came close to fighting my brothers. But by the time that I became a norteño, so the way that happened was that my brothers were so heavily into that lifestyle that my parents just got tired of it. I mean, they were in and out of jail every week. Every week. From as juveniles to adults. And when they were about 17, right before they were going to become adults, my parents sent them to Mexico. And when they did that, the gang that they were from here in Reno, something happened where they got broken up. The police just came down on these guys and they all got locked up, got sent to different prisons so they wouldn't be together.
That happens, yeah.
And some rumor got out that apparently, because it just happened to happen around the time that my parents sent my brothers to Mexico.
Huh.
So some gang members made some rumor about them snitching on the gang.
Oh, wow.
So, and this was when I was in middle school. I was attending Trainer Middle School. I started getting guys that were like 6, 7, 8 years older than me looking for me.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I have friends coming up to me and they're like, "Hey, man, this looks like some guys have like pulled out a gun on us, saying they were looking for you." They said if they knew. So one of my brothers was called Casper. That was his nickname. They're like, "Hey, do you know Casper's little brother? We're looking for him. Tell him that we're looking for him." So that was the main reason that I didn't become a sureño, because I actually couldn't.
Right.
Because my brothers made enemies with every other sureño gang here in town.
Jeez.
And not only did they make enemies with every other sureño gang here in town, but because of that rumor that went around, their own gang, now I wouldn't have been able to join them because of that rumor.
Right.
So then I ended up meeting actually my first norteño in my life, which was a family member of one of my friends. And I grew up just knowing that I'm supposed to hate these guys, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's all I was taught. They're the enemy. I'm supposed to hate them.
Of course.
And I never knew why. So when I first met this guy, I was like, "Hey, so what are you guys about?" Because I was raised to hate you guys. But I don't know why. Just besides the fact that, as far as I know, as a young kid in middle school, you wear red and I'm supposed to wear blue. So he went into a little bit of a detail of what a norteño is.
Yeah.
And then for a norteño, there's a little bit actually more unity than sureños.
Okay.
So for a norteño, if you're a norteño, let's say from Modesto, or if you're a norteño from San Francisco, San Jose,
Yeah.
and you roam around and you bump into another norteño, there won't be no beef.
Mm-hmm.
But for sureños, that's not the case.
Huh.
They're gonna beef with anybody. So when he started explaining that, and he started explaining what the cause is, they have this thing called the cause. It's the betterment of the northern race.
Huh.
Interesting. It's where they look out for their people in the north, as they like to say.
Huh.
They want their people to thrive.
Now this is North United States, right?
Northern California.
Northern California. So it has nothing to do with where you're from in Mexico. Or does it?
To a point sometimes.
Okay.
All right.
To a point. It depends. It really depends. So again, like I said, I started talking to him. He started explaining it to me, and I liked it. I was like, man, there's unity there.
Yeah.
There's structure there.
Yeah.
There seems like there's more love there. And for a lot of young kids that grow up in the hood and in just gang infested just neighborhoods, I mean, a lot of them are coming from broken families. They're coming from families where parents are divorced or either one of the parents was just never there. Mm-hmm. So a lot of them, what they're seeking is a family. They're seeking for a family. You know what I mean? That's what it was for me. I was like, same thing for me. My parents were divorced. My family, there's a long history of just drug use, violence, and, just addiction. And as a young kid, I would see other kids where they had their mom, they had their dad, their family was good. And I was like, man, I want that. But I didn't have that in my family. But I got that with my homeboys, Yep.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that a lot of people don't understand about that. They're just like, oh, a bunch of knuckleheads, this and that. But when you really walk in the shoes of somebody that's going through that and that they're growing in these neighborhoods and all they're hearing is that this is what you are good for. I mean, your whole life as a kid, you're hearing this. What are you to believe as you're growing up? Besides like, well, everybody's telling me this is what I'm supposed to do. And these guys who they say that I'm supposed to be are showing me love and are treating me like family. Well, then I guess I do belong here.
Yeah.
Was there anyone in your crew named Sleepy or anyone you met named Sleepy?
I fought people named Sleepy.
I just noticed, and this is how the so many crews I've met, if I go, I know Chino, I know Sleepy, just throw out names, they go, oh, you know him? Because so many crews I've met have a Sleepy or a Casper and they use some of the same, they're like, oh yeah, I know him. I was lying out my butt, but it was, if you just throw out some of those names, I've seen they rehash them. Because, there's a book called Monster. It's about the 8 Trey Crips.
Tookie.
And, Tookie, Williams, all those guys. And they bring up how so many of them have the same names. They're all, this was Sleepy. This is Shadow. This was Loco. And they had it. And then the next crew's like, this is Sleepy. And they had some of the same names. And it's funny. The reason I was thinking about besides the nicknames is, I don't know if it's changed, but you brought up the unity part. Statistically, I don't know if it's different now, but during the 90s, more Crips killed Crips than Bloods killed Crips. Because they had you had the Playboy Crips, the 8 Trace Crips, like all these guys, and they would divide it. So it wasn't enough to say I'm a Crip. They go, well, I'm a Playboy Crip. And it wasn't enough to say you're a Blood. It's, well, I'm a Pyru. Well, I'm from here. Well, I'm 5th Street Blood. You're from this. You're from, Inglewood. Or you're from Rosewood. It was all divided up where there wasn't as much unity as people thought, where you have Crips calling Crips. And then even in prison, it's, well, are you with Tookie or are you with this guy? And just so crazy to me and they would just, that book is just crazy. I think the author Sanyika Shakur, because he took on a name after he was told about like Islam in prison. But it's interesting to see there's not this unity people think. But so why do you think it is with Norteños? Is it because they kind of had to fight more on the defense, or why were they so unified over Sureños?
Well, it all started in prison. Okay. Like I said, the Mexican mafia was made to protect, Hispanics and Latinos. Mm-hmm. But then they started looking down upon the immigrant Hispanic that was working as the farmers up in the north. Okay. They started seeing them as less than themselves because they were from the city. They were from L.A. They would wear these nice suits out there. They dress nice. And here's this sod busters, as they would call them, you know what I mean? And, just looked down upon them and didn't see them as equal. So they got tired of that and made their own thing, which is called Nuestra Familia.
Oh, there you go.
And that's then where Norteños came from.
I had no idea.
I forgive you for having your homie jump me in Modesto. I really do. And I'll let it go. Because he thought I was a Nazi lowrider. Because I had on a white wife beater, shaved head, Dickies, and these Chucks. And he said something about my laces. And I have rarely been punched that hard in the face. Because this dude was... He was saying stuff, and the security guard later goes, oh yeah, that he's straight out of the pen. And I was like, oh, that's what Peckerwood means, huh? Because he was yelling at me too. But my eye was bleeding. I had a straight razor on me. That was all I had that night. But
When you were talking about this is my sheltered suburban.
You broke into a
perspective.
crime scene for me, okay?
I know,
You've
but-
done some stuff.
But
He
I have
stole
no
from a
experience.
crime scene for me.
My
That's a
only
friend.
experience with gangs, legit gangs, was being Seth's friend. I was never really the gang material, I guess, but
I would have let you in a gang, Sean.
thank you. You tried to get me in a couple times.
I did.
What a great friend.
Yeah. But I remember you were talking about how you see this as a family and as a brotherhood and as something that's more fulfilling than your actual family and stuff like that. And I remember an experience. This is kind of a Tales from the Ditch. I remember watching that movie, and I know this is a goofy movie, The Warriors. I remember watching it when I was like 10 or 11 and being like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. These people are dressing up like baseball guys and clowns and all this stupid stuff. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is dumb. And then maybe 5 years later, when I was like a late teenager or starting to turn into an adult, I watched it again and I got it. Because I saw all this stuff, but I saw how everybody was there for each other, how everybody was supporting each other, how like these people trusted their own more than their closest friends or girlfriends or family or whatever. And I understood it. And I don't know what it is. It's maybe has something to do with like, I don't know, growing up and finding dissatisfaction with your relationships or something like that. But I totally remember it was the exact opposite. I watched it when I was 10 and I thought it was goofy and stupid. I watched it when I was 15 and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And there's something that happens, especially around that age, I feel like, when you just start to kind of come into puberty or something like that. I don't know what happens, but all of a sudden your perspective is totally different. And you're, as a boy or a man at least, you're desiring so strongly family and brotherhood and like fellow warriors to share in and stuff like that. And I never had that really experience. I mean, Seth and I fought together a couple times and I got in some fights and stuff like that, but I was never like that meathead type of guy that Seth was. But I still was able to like catch on to that feeling, that desire.
Yeah.
And I think that that's probably why like teenage boys get associated so easily with gangs compared to younger kids or older kids who haven't been there yet. I mean, that, between like 12 and 18 is like the perfect time to go get kids involved.
What was the initiation? You have to get jumped in or have to tag some? Okay. All right.
Yeah, so, and another thing I wanted to add into it is that, I mean, it's gotten worse. As time has progressed, it's gotten worse for kids that are growing up in that lifestyle, in those areas, because now it's generational. Now, some of them, their dad or their grandpa
is still in it.
Is from that hood.
Oh, man.
Like, you go to certain parts in California and their grandpa was from the same hood, their dad, their uncles, brothers. So now it's a family. It really is a family thing. It's you just protecting your family from these other people. So they don't see it as wrong. They're just like, this is family. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's family. They've grown up in that same neighborhood for 30, 40, 50 years. And that's all they know. So when I hear a lot of times that, again, when you hear a lot of people just putting those kids down, it bothers me because they don't know what they're talking about. Mm. They don't understand that this is all they know. For some of them, this is all they know. That's their family.
Yeah, gosh.
And instead of just being like, oh, we need to lock them all up and throw the key away, we need to look at the real problem that is going on and look at a way to fix it. We need to love on these kids and we need to give them that family that a lot of them are honestly looking for.
Totally give them a better version.
Yeah.
So that the gang's not appealing because they have a good family to go to.
Our
That's
prison
great.
system, too, isn't reforming anyone. It's a joke that we say, oh, they'll get reformed. We're not, anyone who's been to jail, the guards aren't like, hey, we need to really pour in these guys and disciple them. And
Yeah, we're here for the
reform 'em.
betterment of your soul.
No, I remember, so I was lucky. My brother and I only ever went to, he went to juvie, I went to county. And it's like you get released, in a day or two, you're out. I was walking out and he's like, I'll see you again soon. He was not, he didn't care because you're a number at that point. We process so many guys. You're one more scumbag. And I'm not saying we have to, people don't get this. And this happens in America so much. We don't have to sacrifice justice for compassion. We can still have laws but go, is this working in prison? Like, think about this. How many Christians make jokes about, like, in jail you get raped? Why is that funny? When does the Bible ever say that's appropriate punishment? And we go, oh, well, they had coming. I go, well, you had hell coming, but I don't laugh hoping you're going to hell.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy because if you look at and they were racist, but besides that, the Puritans, back then, you could be arrested for something or have a charge, but go on with your life. And they weren't trying to tear you away from your family. They weren't trying to make sure you never got a job again. They still, in the community, you could have your family taken care of. You weren't hours away from them. And you could get out, go back to your life, and continue. Like, except for a few things, maybe murder or rape, you could come back to community. It wasn't the end. We haven't done that. We've basically said, and we won't say it out loud, but it's one strike, you're out. You're done. And you get out, and someone sees on your resume, they say, I'm not hiring you. And then we go, gosh, why don't you get a job? Well, you won't hire me. And it's funny. There's just so many things in our system that's so jacked up. And before you write in, I don't hate Republicans. I don't hate Democrats. I really don't give a crap. I rather go, how do we help these people? I don't care if you love Bob Dole. Like, I really don't. Just, how can we make this better? Because all we talk about, this is the only issues I hear Christians talk about. Abortion, gay marriage. What about the prison system? What about, I'm not saying for or against it. Do you have a theology for the death penalty? Do you have a theology for how are we going to help with poverty and not just say it's someone else? Do you have a theology for, all right, what can we do better for widows and orphans? What about, all right, let's pick a random one. Let's say the border. So let's say we're separating kids at the border or we don't want to let refugees in. I don't want to just
That
hear.
would never happen.
I know, it would
Never
never
happen here.
It's unheard of.
Not in a Christian country. I don't want to just hear, well, my party says this. No. Let's start with our tradition. All right, have the church fathers written about? Did Jesus talk about it? Jesus or Jesus, did they talk about it? Did have any theologians written about it? Do we have any creeds about it? Look through church history and then take all that and formulate and look at scripture and go, okay, and look at the laws and look at our resources and say, okay, what's the kingdom response that we can come into this and speak truth and say, hey guys, I think this is what we can do versus, well, my party said we do this. I didn't ask what your party said. And you know what? If your party says something that's true, then it's lining up with the Bible. Good. Then we can, if it happens, if a political party happens to say something that lines up with the Bible, great, I'll affirm it. But they're lining up with the Bible. We're not here to make the Bible line up with them. Like, I think of Joshua, the angel of the Lord says, Joshua comes up to him and says, so are you with us or them? And I love his answer. He goes, I'm with God. I'm the leader of God's army. He's not there to align with us. We're there to align with him. If we oppose slavery, it shouldn't be because, well, my party says this. No, it's because it offends the Imago Dei, the image of God, and God hates it. And let's get into that. And I don't know if you're going to care about this topic, Jesus, but let's just bring it up. So we're separating families at the border. And the first thing that comes out is we blame some, well, he did first. Well, they did first. Well, it's not going to change. Well, they broke the law. Being someone who, this is something on your heart, what do you care most about? Do you care about solution? Do you care about proving your point? I mean, where are you at with this? What's your reaction when you see on the news kids being taken from their family and Christians don't seem to give a crap? What's your opinion on this? If you have any feeling at all, I don't know. I mean,
Simple. There has to be a better way than to separate children from their parents.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that we have our laws.
Yeah.
And God tells us we are to submit to the ruling authorities that He has set and abide by the laws of the land.
Absolutely.
Now, one of our laws is obviously, when it comes down to immigration, is you can't come here illegally or you're breaking the law.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for it. Yeah. But separating children from their parents just for wanting a better life, I don't think that's the way to go by it.
Yeah. Do you think we can do better? You think we could work together, figure out policies? Or I heard one person, they have an outreach at border towns. And what they do is, so coyotes is the term they use for people who help people get over a border, but they sexually assault women. There's all this trafficking. But this lady, I'll look up her layer. Interesting article. I didn't agree with all of it, but she had some good points. She was talking about setting up ministries at the border town to minister to the single women coming over with kid. Or she brought up a good point. She goes, why do you only care about these people once they reach our border? Why aren't we caring about their story before then too? It's not enough to say, what's Mexico's problem? Well, this goes back to the same question America's been wrestling with for years, and Jesus had asked to him, who is my neighbor? This is what it comes down to. And Jesus didn't say, oh, Bill next door or the dentist across the street. If they are a living, breathing human being, they are your neighbor. So if we're supposed to love our neighbor, it is our problem. I mean, imagine World War II. Oh, the Jews are being slaughtered. Well, that's not my neighbor. Yes, they are. So we can't just anymore go, well, South America is someone else's problem. No, they are fleeing. There's corrupt police. You and I were talking, Jesus, there's corrupt politicians. And if we really are a Christian nation, I'm doing air quote hands for people who can't see. If my mom's listening, she wouldn't listen to this. But why do we only care once they reach the border? And I'm not saying we don't care. I personally agree with Jesus. We shouldn't separate kids. Point blank. We need to find a better way. But I want us to care before then of, okay, what about the coyotes? What about the trafficking? How can we figure this out? How can we minister to them? And instead of church planting just being this sexy thing or finding a cool city, how about we start thinking about church planting in these areas or even ministering or more missions, because it's to just wait till they're dead on your doorstep. No, I want to see the whole of the person, the whole of the story. And it is interesting. It's up till the border, nothing. And then they get here and suddenly we care. I'm like, I want to care about them before. I don't know. Is that making sense? Is that?
No,
I don't know.
It makes perfect sense. Myself as a Mexican, as I told you guys, I'm originally from Mexico. Came up here at a young age, 3 years old. This hits close home to me.
Yeah.
It means a lot because I'm seeing a lot of the big portion of the people that are going through this it's my people.
Yeah.
And I believe the only reason that it gets attention once it gets here is because I feel like, and I'm talking for non-Christians at this point,
Yeah.
is that I feel like they feel like they're what's that word I'm looking for?
Dicks?
Dang it.
Oh, sorry. I thought that's what the word you were looking for.
I do not even know.
Sorry.
No.
I had a guess.
Like their comfort's going to be. They're not going to be as comfortable. Their comfortability is going to be.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Messed with. They're like.
Yeah.
I mean, what do we hear
Yeah.
when you see that in the news and you see illegal immigrants coming to the United States? Oh well, they're just coming here to get on welfare.
Steal our gerbs.
Yeah.
So, and who pays for that? Oh, well, the taxpayers. So, why should I have to pay for that? And, oh yeah, they're stealing our jobs. They're stealing our jobs in the farms, picking the strawberries that we want to pick.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah.
I think that's the thing, man, that they see that, they're going to be a burden to us.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, not everybody that's coming up here is coming up here with good intentions. I'm speaking on behalf of those that I know for a fact are just seeking a better life.
And it's life or death, you said.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I mean, just to speak out of things that I know as a Mexican. In Mexico, as we know, we have a big cartel problem.
Yeah.
The government does not run that country.
Right.
No. The cartels run that country.
Right.
Yep.
The government, to a certain aspect, runs it. The government allows the cartels to work.
Jeez.
They allow them. Which is, it's funny to even say that, because even if they don't allow them, well, guess what happens to them? Yeah. They come up missing. Their heads go missing. Ugh. It's that simple. Their families go missing.
And we get mad about Bernie Sanders. They're getting the head lopped off. Jeez, that's so crazy.
So this is what they're dealing with down there. Yeah. And in many other countries down south too, same thing. They're dealing with gangs and cartels running the country. And a lot of these people are trying to flee that because the government is not helping. And for the men, a lot of them are forced into it. They have no choice a lot of times. I can countless times of stories that I've heard of men being approached and given the choice. Either you're going to work for us and do as we tell you, or we're going to kill you. You choose. And not only are we going to kill you, we're going to kill your family too. What is the parent going to do?
Specifically, the Old Testament is very clear that we're supposed to not persecute sojourners, that we're supposed to support people who are fleeing oppressive or idolatrous cultures, and we're certainly not supposed to destroy their way of life. Now, there's this American sentiment, like you were talking about earlier, that states like, oh, well, if you want to leave, say, Mexico, for example, and come here, why can't you just do it legally? And I know you were 3, right? You were 3?
Yeah.
So you may not know, but maybe you know just because of experience or people you've talked to. Is it more difficult to immigrate to America if you're from Mexico than if you're from, I don't know, Canada?
Oh, those whites and their caribou and freaking hockey sticks. Go ahead, sorry.
So, when do we ever see in the news about there being a problem of Canadians coming over here?
I know, right?
Do they want to? That's what I wonder.
It's not easy.
Yeah, it's
not easy.
Extremely difficult.
People say, "Oh, do it the legal way. Do it the legal way." If people understood how hard that is for some of these people, how much time that's going to take, it can take over 10 years and thousands upon thousands of dollars in order to come here legally.
And you're in a life or death situation.
And you're supposed to wait 10 years.
You're supposed to, exactly. Canadians don't have that problem. Dutch don't have that problem.
We don't. We're just high. They're just high. They don't even know America's still around, I don't think. Wooden shoes. You can't trust those people. I'm just...
So, would a good reform for that be the same immigration policy for all countries?
Well, here's the thing. All right. So, and this is something I appreciate. All right. So, usually, Jesus has brought this up on Facebook. So, a little thing called Facebook. And usually what happens is, and that's all I'm asking. I'm not asking people to hate Democrats or Republicans. I just want a solution. You bring up reform and they go, well, Obama did it. All right. I'm not here to debate, stats with him. If he did, it's wrong too. I don't care. I want a reform. And they say, well, our policies have led us. Fine. Then I want better policies. Well, this is fine. It's always an excuse as opposed to, can we do better? Like, we talk about being the greatest country on earth, then show it. We brag about it. And I think, I don't know, my opinion is one that this is just and Jesus, you can throw out some. I like the idea of us having ministries in place as the church before they even get to a border. I like the idea of, petitioning with lobbyist groups for reformed, better immigration to look at what's working, what's not. I'd like to look at how we can help other countries maybe with their infrastructure so they have better record keeping. More funds towards the centers where we would keep a family if they, come over illegally. That way at least it's a humane environment. And they say there's no money. If there was a new war tomorrow, I guarantee we'd find money for it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. You find money for what you care for.
We're making a space force. We got money.
We're making,
That's right.
And
I'm joining.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I found this when I went to Thailand. We also, I think, need to change perception. People, before I went to Thailand, had this idea of, it's all these little villages. I went to Bangkok, and it's this huge skyscrapers, all this economy. They're doing pretty decent. Now, they have their small villages. But we have this perception of there's just us, and all these other places are dumps. I was looking it up. 2006, Chile became the country with the highest nominal GDP per capita in Latin America and became the first South American country to join the OECD. There are economies down there. That's Chile. And one of our leaders before has called that place a dump.
Yeah.
And I go, and they say, well, they have gangs. Chicago has gangs, homie. So does Detroit. So does Hell's Kitchen. We need to change the perception, too, because, if we don't see people from South America as human, we're not going to help them, because think of it. This is the same tactic we use in war. In Vietnam, we didn't say, go kill these nice people made in the image of God. We said, they're filthy communists. Or they'd use racial slurs, because it dehumanizes them. It makes them easier.
Oh, yeah.
When we fought the Germans, you don't say, and I can say this, I'm German. You don't say they're humans, you say they're Krauts. They're filthy Germans. Because you have to dehumanize them. But if we start humanizing and saying, they're made in the image of God, I think that helps. So that's my idea. I mean, there's a spiritual aspect, there's a legal aspect, and then I think there's the perception of how we talk matters. Because abortion, what do Christians always do? They say, it's not a fetus, it's a baby. It's a human. Mm-hmm. So stop saying, well, it's just some scumbag. It's just some parasite. No, it's a human being, right or wrong, Christian or not, made in the image of God. So we need to start there with, how are you going to help your neighbor? And I'm not saying I know it, because I'm not an immigration lawyer. I'm not a politician. But are we really saying we can't do any better than this? Like, we've put men on the moon and cured disease. We have some of the best hospitals on the planet. We can't figure out immigration. We don't have the money anywhere. It's so funny how often the bank said we don't have money, and then they're able to give people raises and bonuses. I think we can do better. And I don't know how, when I say this, it makes people so amped up. It's all idolatry. They get so, you've seen it, Jesus, just so angry that the most controversial things I've said in the past 2 years are, I said women are people, black people are people, and South American people are people. And those tended to be the most controversial things I've said, that they were human. And it just, I don't know.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, it just.
I think that maybe that's the question I'm trying to ask. I don't know how to say this, but I feel like I see on the news, or I hear speeches by people, or I hear podcasts, or I see on social media or whatever, somebody postulates that there's a solution for what's referred to as the immigration problem. And they say, hey, why don't we have equality versus all nations trying to immigrate? The big thing is like, there could be terrorists, or there could be somebody who's going to abuse welfare or something like that. And we need to vet these people or something like that. And I understand that, but that's like 10 points past the original decision to allow somebody to immigrate based on persecution. And so I feel like every time I see somebody offer a decent solution, they say, hey, how about we take these immigration laws and reform them to make them better? Or how about we create ministries, or even create state-sponsored programs to make it easier or more effective to immigrate to America from a Latin nation seems to be the only problem, or a Muslim nation. Somebody gets on there who's a Christian, and they go, oh, well, this is clearly a left-leaning socialist who's postulating this point.
So I don't have to listen to you.
Well, which, again, is dehumanizing.
Yeah.
It's taking their humanity out and saying that they're this inhuman socialist or whatever, or liberal, or whatever the buzzword is. And I think looking past who wrote an article or who suggested a theory and offering solutions or offering your version of a solution instead of offering blame or frustration or anger is going to be a lot more effective. And I do think that the first century church was laid out with instruction.
Clearly laid out.
Yeah, that makes it easy to have this discourse and determine what is the best and most appropriate action.
How many school shootings were done by South Americans? How many were done by white Americans?
My gosh.
I'm sorry.
I don't know the answer, but I'm sure.
Here's something.
You're walking a tightrope right now.
Hey, Jesus, I want to ask you this. So this is something I run into. All right, once again, I found another thing. The Global Competitiveness Report for 2009 to 2010 ranked Chile as being the 30th most competitive country in the world. And once again, all right, do you ever feel like people make a caricature or this exaggerated idea of your argument? Because I say, let's reform. And they say, oh, so we shouldn't have any laws and let anyone in? I go, when did I say that? And they're, oh, so we should just... Why do you think it is, Jesus, people are getting so heated about this? Because I know you brought up their comfort, and America loves our comfort, and it's going to be infringed upon. But like the New Testament church, they're willing to die and be slaughtered. And we're mad that someone's going to take a strawberry picking job. Like, I don't want to pick strawberries. You know why? It's hot. A guy's yelling at you. I hate shorts. And I'm not, and it's funny. But it's funny. We go, they're taking our jobs. How many labor jobs do we have that are open and can't be filled?
And you're paid by production, by the way.
By production. Not, if it really was, Americans are just clamoring for his jobs. Why is it we have an unemployment rate still, but all these labor jobs that Americans don't want to do and aren't even applying for and aren't even training for? They go, you're stealing our jobs. Okay, you can have them. Well, I don't want to work there. Why do you think it is people are getting so heated about this, Jesus? Why can't they have, like, we're having a calm discussion of, hey, how do we reform this, brother? How do we what do you think it is? Like,
I mean, I would say it's where they get their news from.
Well, here we go. Let's do this.
I mean, honestly, if we're honest, what do you hear?
Yeah.
From the people that, you know, that automatically start attacking you when you say that.
Yeah.
When you're, you know, just showing them that, hey, they're humans just like us.
Yeah.
Is that they're getting their news from the media. And, I mean, is the media ever the best way to get your news from?
No. Yeah.
I mean, have we not learned that throughout the years?
Yeah.
So, honestly, a lot of people, that's just what they're going off of, what they're hearing.
They're not talking to someone they're not talking to another human saying, tell me your experience. They're going, well, I have one verse taken out of context, and this guy on the news says you're a criminal who's going to rape my family.
Yeah.
And it, just so...
So,
man.
I mean, just for example, I saw a video today of a white lady that approached a bunch of Hispanic workers.
Mm-hmm.
And she just started telling them that she hates them because they're Mexican. Just for the fact because they're Mexican. And this guy's telling them, well, why? Well, because you guys are animals. Because you guys are rapists. And what facts does this lady have on those specific men that are working their butts off to provide for their families and just come up to them out of nowhere and be like, well, I hate you guys because you're Mexicans. And because as Mexicans, you're animals, and you're rapists, and you're killers.
Yeah.
Well, where do you hear that from?
Yeah.
The media. You know, and that's what I mean. That's where they're getting their sources from. And it's stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, why not go up to the people who are going through these situations and specifically, you know, talk to somebody that's being affected by it and is going through it? Because they're going to give you the real truth of what's going on.
Yeah.
Rather than those that are just, like I say, you know, their comfort's being threatened and they're like, oh, no, I don't need to deal with this.
Yeah.
Let somebody else deal with it.
I found, too, this is the reason I want to have Baruch on. So Baruch, he's Reno Judo Club. And he was telling me, you know, like, the immigration process is messy and complex, and he has people who disagree on both sides. He has family members who say, whatever, who cares about this law? It's a stupid law. He has friends who, sorry, Bruce, if I'm not saying perfectly, we had this conversation a long time ago. He has people saying, well, I came over legally, why can't you? I tried my best. There are people who, they got preference because of their career or degree or where they were located.
Yes.
And then some people who, based on what they claimed or their reasons, or if they had already come over once and been sent back, then you get bumped back to the list. So I'm not saying, for people listening, please, because I'm trying to be charitable here, even though this subject frustrates me. I can't imagine how much it frustrates you, Jesus. I'm not saying it's not complex. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I get it's complex. I'm just asking, as Christians, can we petition or do better? Because abortion, we didn't just say, well, it's too hard, doesn't matter, or, we fought for it. We've talked about all these ways to deal with it. We went to Supreme Court. And gay marriage, how hard did we fight? So many they went, oh, gay marriage, it was going to be the end of the world. Yet this, we throw up our hands and go, what's their problem? Just obey the law. I think we can do better. I really think we can, I believe in ingenuity and intelligence and talking. I wish they'd just sit down with someone and because talking to Baruch and you and others, it's a totally different situation than my dad, who was coming post-World War II, which, once again, that was a different era how we viewed immigration. He's coming in. Or even my mother-in-law, when she came over because her husband was in the military. So that's a different way she gets let in. A different way of how they view her. Of, okay, her process is going to look different. And the other thing, I don't know if you've seen this, Jesus, that frustrates me is people using, I don't even like the term, because if you go in another country, it doesn't even work, using minorities against other minorities. They go, well, this Asian community does just fine. They had a different experience. It's a different experience. And by the way, not every Asian community had the same. I think it's Hmong is the name of it. I'm probably butchering it. But they'll always point to, well, this Asian community's wealthy and they have high education. There are also some Asian communities with high poverty rates and gang problems. So it's complex, but we can do better. But it has to start with, okay, what does the gospel say? And how do I view Jesus? Is he a human or is he a threat? I don't know. I think we can do better.
I think one of the big problems is the labels.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
One of the labels I hate the most is...
Sorry, can I steal some from your beer?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Is... no, these are over there. Over there.
I was like, I feel like he juked when I thought he was going to jive. He ducked under, did the rope, and Dobie goes, you can have my beer. And I was like, dang it.
It's empty.
He's all, take that.
Is illegal immigrant. Illegal.
Okay, yeah.
What do you, when you hear the word just illegal.
Yeah. You're a human being who's not legal.
Illegal.
Yeah.
And you put that into a person.
Yeah.
So I think when you put that kind of label on a human being, it makes it easier to see him not as a human being.
Yeah.
As I told you, the story of the lady just going up to this Hispanic man and calling them animals, calling them rapists, because that's what she was told that Mexicans are.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So it's...
Yeah, you wouldn't like the video, Sean. It would piss you off.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but
let's get a white guy's perspective. Go ahead. No, I'm messing with you.
So we have our friend Marquez Caceres.
Say his full name.
Marquez Marufo Melendrez Rodriguez Caceres.
There you go.
That's a real Mexican.
Yeah.
We'll call him Marco Shaughnessy. There you go.
So he came with me to my grandma's house. And my grandma was like, oh, you're such a pleasant guy. And she was trying to make small talk. And she's, from the different generation that has different ideals and really is pretty racist and doesn't even understand that they're racist.
Not in America.
She goes, and she's trying to make small talk with my friend. And she goes, hey, what do you guys think? This was, 10 years ago when the border problems started to get crazy because in Arizona there was a bunch of crime or something like that. She goes, what do you think about the U.S. government commissioning these Minutemen to go shoot on sight people who are crossing the border illegally because they're all, rapists and criminals. And my friend Marcos, he goes, I don't know. I have an interesting perspective because, my grandma came here illegally so that we could prosper. And because she was trying to escape, she lived in a town with a cartel presence, and she knew that they weren't going to make it much longer. So she came over here, and my grandma was just like, whoops. And my grandma had no idea. My friend Mark doesn't have an accent or anything like that. She had no idea that he was Mexican because
she had an image in her head, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because she thought he should have a shaved head and a flannel shirt with only the top
Southside
button.
Locos and
have
he's
tattoos
stacking,
and stuff
doing
like that.
gang. He's just up here flexing every finger in every direction. And
And he'd be like, "Hola, vieja," but he wasn't. He was just
nicest guy in the world if you ever get to
nice,
meet him. He's
but
the nicest
either
guy
way,
in the world. Yeah.
That literally, the only experience that she had with an illegal immigrant was what she heard on the news. She had never actually met anybody or talked to anybody or had a conversation with anybody. And she granted, she never had the opportunity because she's protected in her white privilege and suburban culture, but it's just crazy. Like, she literally had formed this entire image purely based on what she sees on the news and purely based on what she hears about that. Oh. And so I just think it's interesting when you say, what do you think of when you think of illegal? There's people who have never met anybody who's illegal that already have a very firm image in their head of what they look like, sound like, talk like, act like. And that's crazy.
It's funny because sometimes we get into semantics. And I really am trying to be charitable to all our brothers, even ones I might not agree on. Like, I know people who might say, well, I don't, and they didn't mean anything by it. They go, I don't get it. Like, and they had good discussion with people. So it was like a great discussion, but they said, I don't get it. Like, they're immigrant, they crossed illegally. What's wrong with this? And we sometimes get into semantics of like, well, technically, I go, we don't base our whole view of humanity or how we view a human on technicality, semantics, or, well, this term technically, legally. No, like, do you feel this to best ability glorifies God, humanizes him, loves them, gives them charity, talks to them? Like, I don't care about like, someone will say, well, I should be able to say this. Christianity is not about what you should be able to say or what you get to demand. I see Paul laying down his rights going, how can I meet them? How can I go to where they are and get to know them? Like the woman at the well, Jesus doesn't go, hey, technically I'm a Nazareth American. Okay. Or technically I should be able to call you this term. I see him going to her, going past cultural barriers, going past what people would say of her, not calling her a slut, not calling her adultery. He comes up to her and goes, hey, do you want the water of life? Even when she says she's had multiple husbands, he doesn't go, I know, because you're a whore. No, he goes to her. And I don't think we should spend all our time arguing, well, I should be able to say, no. To this person, to reach their heart, do you really want to speak about them in a way they wouldn't even want to be spoken about, or that would deeply hurt them? Like, I don't care what defense you give. If someone who's gay, I have friends who are homosexual, says, I don't prefer to be called this term. I'm not equating the two, but just as a human, I don't go, well, I should be able to say that. No, I say, then I won't say it. Because I love you. And I want to meet you where you're at.
Yeah.
So if you say, well, they broke the law. I understand that. I'm not ignoring the law. But they're human. And the law is not the ultimate thing of how I treat people. And laws can still be reformed. They can be... Remember that thing called amendments? It's because things can be amended. It's like, right. Seriously, the Constitution has become our 10 commandments. Politicians are our apostles. It's just crazy how much idolatry is going on here. Instead of saying, do you even have a friend who's from South America? Like I see us with the movement with police brutality. I go, do you even have a friend who's black? Just talk to him. Well, I don't need to. Well, then you're never so much could be taken care of if you sat and wept with someone. Just talk with, like, veterans who have PTSD. I got to know about by sitting down with him and weeping with him. Why does this hurt? It just, I don't know.
You know what's interesting? That story, the Samaritan woman at the well.
That's right. She was a Samaritan, so that was, yeah.
That section of scripture, if you look at the footnote, it says this wasn't included in the earliest manuscripts because it was written by a left-leaning socialist. Did you know that? No.
It said "Feel the Burn" 2016. They're all, you're out of here.
My point, though,
you snowflake.
We are willing to edit the very word of God to meet our perspective. And you guys both touched on it, but like things like abortion or gay marriage in this country, we are seeking reform of the law because we think it's an unjust law. And we want to see the unjust law overturned. Fair enough. What about unjust laws elsewhere?
You don't feel that way about both of those, but I won't go into it. But
well, what about unjust
ahead. No,
laws? What about something that's an unjust law that's preventing people from the south border from getting in, but it's allowing people from the north border? Or what about, even further, what about unjust laws in Mexico? What about corrupt government and police that doesn't value our Christian values? Yeah. What about that? Do we not care about that? What about unjust laws in Muslim nations that oppress women or that oppress people unfairly based on their, what do you call it, sect or
their religious sect, Sunni or Shiite?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Like, why did we choose gay marriage and abortion to be the number one things when honestly, the way that people are being treated when they cross the border sometimes is as dehumanizing as an abortion. And
send
can have the
emails
same
to talesfromtheditch@gmail.com.
But anyways, I want to, unless you have any further points, Jesus, I kind of want to bring it back because we left your life story at you joined the Norteños, and I want to continue past that, hopefully.
So I do want to continue a little bit.
Yeah,
on the immigration, just a little bit. This is the last thing I have to
say
on it.
Feel free, take your time.
Okay. One, you said unjust laws in Mexico. What laws, I would say?
Right.
When the country's honestly being run by the cartels.
Exactly.
It's the cartels' laws.
Right.
Dang.
Okay, so, I mean, and I'm not trying to paint a picture that everybody's corrupt, but the big majority is. You're talking more than 90%.
Jeez.
More. You know, so there's those good guys out there. There is.
There's good hombres. They're not all bad hombres.
But those good hombres end up dead hombres.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Jeez. Yeah, that's a great point.
They're facing a cartel that has military grade weapons. Ugh. Guess where those weapons came from too, actually.
There was a report.
Dun, dun, dun.
There was a report. Everyone talks about illegal guns coming in America, and Mexico was saying, no, our big issue is the thousands of guns coming in from America to Mexico.
Yeah, the
thousands,
illegal guns
not
that
dozens.
come into America, they said more than 80% were originally from America.
Yeah.
And re-entered the border.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
And yet they're like, well, we'll fix your problem. Well, how about you quit giving them guns?
Right.
You know? And then also touching on what you said, you know, there was two words you mentioned. Commandment and love.
Yep.
Matthew 22, starting verse 36, says, Teacher, which is a great commandment in the law? And he said to him, You shall love the Lord with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law of the prophets.
We gotta do the deacon.
I'm standing up right now to show support.
Now, the reason I bring this up is because what bothers me the most out of all of this is how I'm seeing brothers and sisters dealing with this.
Wow.
It's breaking my heart, honestly. Now, seeing somebody outside the faith, I understand. I mean, we're living in a fallen world. I'm not mad at them. I'm honestly not. I love them. I truly have a love for all people. But what breaks my heart is that brothers and sisters who I take communion with don't see nothing wrong with this. Mm. And I see it over and over. And this scripture always comes to me. And many scriptures of how we're told that we should treat the sojourner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it says the same thing as the verse that I just read. Love them as you would love yourself. So my thing is, where is the love?
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah, man.
Where is the love for the neighbor? We're called to do that first.
Yep.
Christ told us that the whole commandments are summed up in that. To love your neighbor.
Yeah. Jeez.
Love. It says if you do not love, you've done nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I could go and proclaim Jesus all I want, but if I don't love, I did nothing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I did nothing at all. It was all in vain.
Yeah. And we don't love one brother over another. Like they say, well, if you let this brother in, this bad thing could happen to another brother. And they almost act like, well, that's the choice. Either, if you let them in, they're going to die. So we have to keep them out. I'm referring to Arizona. They'll sometimes go, well, if you let them in, gangs will come over and kill them. What about those neighbors? Shouldn't we love them? I go, I refuse the choice because it's a false assumption that we can't love both.
Yeah.
Both. It's going, well, no, you have to choose the guys in Arizona, these, Arizona whites or the South Americans. I go, no, I choose both. We can look at the law and look at the gang problems in Arizona and also reform for South American, just reform, find a better way, because that was the argument. All right. I saw you bring this up. They said, well, people were complaining during Clinton that, it was criminal that children were being kept with the families and it was okay. All right. First off, there was reasons because it was the conditions. Secondly, now that we've seen this, most people I think are going, okay, maybe it's not so bad to keep them with the parents. And I would have said this, if I was back then, involved in this like I am now, because back then I was just high, but if I was involved back then during the Clinton issue and people said, well, the alternative is to separate them, I wouldn't agree with that. I'd say, no, we don't separate them, fine. Then you know what we do? If you're keeping the kids of the family, make it more humane conditions, still reform, once again, immigration, which we've been saying for years to reform it, and no one's done it, because they just keep blaming each other. I keep seeing people distract and go, well, what about this? What about this? Then we fix it. If you say, well, this policy sucks too, then we change that one too. And I don't see any alternative other than the Bible is so, I want to say in the Old Testament, there's 8-9 verses specifically on refugees. There's general verses on sojourners, New Testament, Old Testament. There's specific verses on when they're a different culture. And then even the Good Samaritan, everyone thinks that story is just about a nice guy. No, Samaritan was not loved. They were not loved. I don't think.
And the one who helped them out of all.
There you go. He goes, who was the neighbor to him? But was that guy asked? It's the question we keep asking. Well, who's my neighbor, Jesus? Because the guy wants to get out. He thinks he's going to be more street smart than Jesus. And that's the thing. I really think we believe we're a little more street savvy than Jesus. We go, well, if he knew our situation, well, that was this context. Well, if God knew where we were at, I'm like, you think it was safe back then? You could get killed on the road and no one caught it. You got slaughtered on the road, robbed. No one would catch it.
The really strange thing, too, is, and you guys know probably, that I completely rebel against the idea that America is some type of Christendom or a modern.
You've never brought this up before. What?
But let's say it is. Mm-hmm. Let's say the United States of America is the modern day Jerusalem or the modern day Israel.
Okay.
Thematically speaking, the Old Testament, the whole idea is that Israel operates in a way that is holy and righteous and honoring to God. Hopefully, it doesn't actually happen that often.
No.
But that was the plan based on God's law. And that the sojourner would be so attracted to the way of life in Israel that they would come and become a part of Israel. And that the people of Israel would accept and support them. What were we going to say?
No, you just dropped the mic.
Oh, yeah. And like, and so say we are, say the United States is the modern day Christendom, the kingdom of God, the modern day Israel. Why on earth would we not want to operate by those same principles that were thematically set up in the Old Testament for Israel?
Isn't it interesting we use the Old Testament when it's convenient? Because when it comes to homosexuality, people quote the Old Testament all the time. And then when I bring up the verses on refugees, they go, well, that's a theocracy. That's the Old Testament. I go, fine, then stop using the verses on homosexuality and Sodom and Gomorrah.
Exactly.
And they go, well, but those verses transfer over to New Testament. I go, oh, wait. Oh, okay, hold on. So you're saying the Old Testament reveals some of God's heart, and that a lot of those themes and ideas reveal his heart and transfer over to New Testament, where we see Jesus doesn't say, I hate the law. He says, I fulfilled it. And that he doesn't just take some of those laws, he expands on some of them.
Yeah.
So I think about this. If he expanded on me, said, you've been told, not to, you've been told eye for an eye. But he takes even further. He goes, no, not just that. Not just, eye for an eye. He goes, love your enemy. And you've been told don't murder. He says, I say don't even hate in your mind. Because if you've hated someone, you've killed them. Like it's the same as murder in your mind. If he expanded that and went, no, I'm taking it above and beyond. It's not just don't murder. It's don't hate. It's not just not vengeance, but love them. I wonder how he would feel about immigrants where he goes, no, it's not just tolerate them and let them in. You shower them with love and affection where they go, no one loves me better than kingdom people.
Amen.
No one welcomes me better than kingdom
Amen.
people. Yeah. But stop using the Old Testament then in your arguments, because they always bring up Sodom and Gomorrah, but they don't bring up, what was she lied for the Israelites, for
Rahab, I think.
Rahab was not Israeli. She was not Israeli. You have Naaman, I believe, was the general who comes for like Elisha to heal him.
Yeah.
And there's all these examples, and I just go, we use Old Testament when it's convenient. We go, well, doesn't it say the earth was created this way? We use it to argue with science, but then when it comes to immigrants, we go, well, that's Old Testament. Well, if Jesus knew our situation, it's so funny. Funny, by that I mean cripplingly depressing, but, yeah.
So there's something I want to throw into it. One thing that happens a lot, obviously, and we see it, is people just pick and choose what they want. They pick and choose things out of the Bible. I don't allow them. I'm sorry, I don't allow them. Like, if you're going to use scripture, you better use it all.
Right.
You are not going to pick and choose what you want and distort the word of God to your will. But a lot of times, then I ask myself, when they're doing that, are they being taught right? What is the church doing?
Fair enough.
Right?
Because obviously they're saying what they're hearing, but if they're using it out of context and they're twisting it to what they think it means, then what does that show? That shows they're not being led right. They're not being taught right.
Yeah.
There's no theology being taught at whatever church they're going to, if that's what, or they're just, I don't know. I mean,
gosh,
we got to look at that.
Yeah.
Maybe our Jerry Falwell Award, we should maybe return it.
He would be, if he actually, someone emailed him and said, did you hand out award to these liberal podcasters? He's like, they are not invited to our school full of guns.
Jesus, I think you're so right on about that. We can't stand, this is my Ingrid Doxer position, but we cannot stand for people to be taught selective portions of scripture.
Yeah.
No, we shouldn't accept it.
It's so important. It's, all scripture is God breathed and useful for exhortation and a bunch of other things that I can't quote the verse, and I should be able to, but like all scripture, not just chunks of scripture, all scripture. And by eliminating portions that don't support your political or social position, I think we're not just doing a disservice to ourselves, but we're eliciting heresy. And that's dangerous. We should be reacting to that in the way that we reacted to heretics back in the day. Slapping them. Remember when Santa Claus slapped that heretic Arian? Or when Augustine had people driven out of their communities for their heresy, hoping one day, obviously, that they could be reconciled because they would stop doing that. But we didn't turn a blind eye to it. So what is our responsibility as Christians now when we hear that heresy?
Can I finally found it. I never want, and Jesus is actually convicting me on this because he posts scripture on Facebook continually. I don't want to take it out of context. So this is from the Sermon on the Mount. And he says, "Do not think that I've come to abolish the law or prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but fulfill them. For truly I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not an iota, not a dot will pass from the law," that's Old Testament, "until all is accomplished. Therefore, whoever relaxes one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom." And he says, "You have heard it was said to those of you, you shall not murder. Whoever murders will be liable to judgment. I say to you, everyone who is angry with his brother," some say hatred, "will be liable to judgment." He doesn't, it says, "You should not commit adultery." But I say to you, everyone who lusts, he expands on this stuff and says, this isn't done. And we go, well, that's the Old Testament. And yeah, we're not living by, I get the purification laws. We're not sacrificing animals. I get certain things like that have been fulfilled. But the ones that haven't been just fulfilled and considered, okay, those are accomplished, were expanded. And I notice they're all on loving and treating your neighbor, because you hit the nail on the head. At the core of it, he goes, this is the heart of them. He goes, here's the law. Now Jesus comes in physical form and shows you the heart behind it. The core, and we're throwing it out. And I'm like, then that should at least give us a desire. Even if I fail, even if I petition and lobby and do this and fail, I want to at least try and strive for it. Like, I don't help people who are in poverty because I think it's all be fixed, but my king demands it of me because the sacrifice he's made on the cross. I think yeah. Oh, gosh.
Excellent point.
I do. Are you okay if we get back to your story? Because I'd like to hear about how you became a Christian. Because I can go for like 5 hours.
I do think people will, if we leave your story off at you join the Norteños, people are going to just further that stereotype.
Yeah.
So
they'll go, Jesus' friend broke Pastor Seth's eye socket because he looked like a Nazi. Which, to be fair, I did.
Hey, let me clear this out. let me tell you why that happened.
Yeah.
So if this guy just came out of the pen, so like I told you how it works in there. Okay. Races. Besides what, Latinos and Hispanics, they're broken up into 3. Paisas, Sureños, Norteños. Well, whites run with Sureños in prison. They have like a little pact going on, right?
Oh,
and
geez.
Norteños run with blacks.
Oh, and I had no idea, really.
So I was screwed.
So when he saw you, it was automatic flight on sight, is what they say.
There you go.
They're just going to fight you. If when I was active and I came across a Sureño or Nazi lowrider or just, Peckerwood, there's different Aryan Brotherhood.
Yeah.
It's just an automatic fight.
Yep.
It's an automatic fight. You don't even ask anything. You're not going to go up to this guy and confirm it. Because, again, this is this person's life.
Yep. Okay.
This is what he's known. So to him, it's like, that's the enemy. I have to go do what I have to do.
There you go.
So it was just a mistaken identity, brother. I'm sorry.
I did look like a Nazi, to be fair. So I had my head shaved with a straight. I'm just saying.
That's so interesting. So why the, not team ups, but why the associations between the Aryan or I guess the whites and the
polar bears and the Sureños?
Yeah. What is the cultural bond there?
There's no real bond. It's all politics.
Oh.
It's all politics. There's politics in prison.
And it's crazy.
Yeah,
okay.
There's politics and everything. And, prison, for gang members is like the armed forces, I would say. It's like boot camp for them. Wow. You know, they go, like, we were talking about, you know, the system of prison, you know, and it's so broken. You don't come out better. You just come out a better criminal. And that's why, I mean, it's like, that's their boot camp. They go there and they learn how to become a better gangster.
Gosh.
A better criminal.
That's crazy.
So when did you become a Christian? Like, what drove you where you went, okay, I'm going to follow Jesus?
So this story starts when I was about my early 20s.
When did you become associated with Norteños? What age?
13.
Oh, wow. Gosh.
But I was around gangs since I got here. 3.
Yeah.
So when I was about 24, 25, you've heard brothers and sisters just talk about how they've had a dream, had a vision, right?
Yeah.
There's this night that I was with my nephew, and I kid you not, I mean, I've always grown up believing that there was a God, right? Always believed that there was a God. In school, I always told my teachers that evolution was crazy. It didn't make sense to me. We came from nothing. How does that happen? How does nothing appear out of nothing? When has any man ever seen that happen? As a young kid, this is the things I would tell my teacher. I'm like, when have we ever seen nothing come out of nothing? I've never seen nothing. I've never just like, here's nothing in this little area of space and then boom, something just appeared there. I'm like, it's never happened for me. So how does that happen? I never got an answer. So for me, it was always that there's a God. I never knew who that God was. You know, I grew up saying that I was Catholic, but that's a cultural thing for a lot of Hispanics.
Okay. All right.
Okay. I was just told by my parents that I'm a Catholic, even though I never went to church.
Yeah.
I actually didn't even, all I was baptized as a baby, and that was it. I didn't even do my first communion or any of that they do in the Catholic Church. And, so like I said, I always had that belief there's a God out there. Cause I would look up to the stars. I would look into space. I would look into nature. I would look at people, and I'm just like, there's too much to this.
Yeah.
There's just way too much, like everything. In order for us to be here, so many things have to be perfectly right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
In order for us to have life in Earth. So I'm like, how did that happen out of nothing? And I said, as a young kid, that was always in my mind. So coming, you know, I mean, sharing my life, obviously not easy at all. I mean, I went through hell. My first 26 years, I was 26 when I became a Christian. My first 26 years were hell.
Yeah.
During that, my early 20s, I was suicidal. I wanted to end it. I was done.
Yeah.
I became a dad at age of 23, and it was when the recession hit. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't provide for my family. And as a man, if you can't provide for your family, you don't feel like a man.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And during those times, I was, you know, I just thought about just ending it. Because I was like, man, I'm not a man. I can't even provide for my family. I literally went for about a good year, hardly eating anything. Because I couldn't get a job. I couldn't provide for my kids. The little food that I had was for them. So I was in this dark time, and during that dark time, I cried to God. But I didn't cry to God the way you would think as a Christian, like, oh, God, come help me. No. I told God, I hate you. I'm like, God, I hate you. I don't know anything about you, but if you're really out there, I hate you. Why am I going through this? You know, but I had this image of God of what I saw again through media, of what I heard people that honestly didn't even know anything about God either, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, you're supposed to be this good God that shouldn't allow, you know, all this pain or, you know, corruption, all this happening. Like, I'm trying my hardest here, and I can't even get diapers for my kids. Why are you letting them go through this?
Yeah.
I'm like, the hell with me. The hell with me. I'm done with me. Because that was my state of mind. The hell with me. Why are you allowing my kids to go through this? They've done nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And as I'm crying, I had this calm. Just come, like, I can't even explain what happened at that moment. But it was a love I don't know. It was a love that I felt that he was inviting me to get to know him. I started talking to my nephew. My nephew literally saw me cry out to God. And an hour, 2 hours after I cried out to God, I was like, you know what? I need to get to know who this God is.
Amen.
I need to get to know who he is. Why is he allowing this to happen? So at that time, culturally, I saw myself as a Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, I haven't baptized my two oldest girls at that time. They're about like 1 or 2 or 3 at that time. I was like, okay, well, let's go to church. Let's get to them. Let's go baptize them. And we went to Little Flower.
Ah, Little Flower.
Little Flower.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to Little Flower.
Sponsored by.
I'm a Little Flower. I know that word. I can say that.
La Flor Pequeña.
Oh, I can't say that one. All right, you got me.
Okay. So, we started looking into that. We started looking into the baptizing my girls. And there's a process where you start going to these classes. I don't even know what it's about, honestly. I just know you got to go to these classes. So I'm like, okay, we go to these classes, right? And we're there with the future godparents. They have to be there. And that class starts, and the first thing they start telling us is how much of a piece of turds we are as parents, and how it's all our fault of everything that's happening to us. And that's why our kids are running wild, being gangsters, this and that. And I mean, just making us feel like crap. I was like, what the hell? Where am I at? I told my wife, I'm like, wait a moment. Like, what are we doing? I came here thinking that I should be, accepted with open arms. I thought that's what the church was. Thought I was supposed to be loved. Not being told that I'm a freaking horrible parent. And I'm still trying to get out of this mentality that I am a horrible parent and that I should just kill myself.
Yeah.
And then I go to the church and they're just confirming it for me.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
That threw me in a roller coaster. I didn't want to. I was like, nope, that's it. No church.
Wow.
We're not baptizing them. No church. I guess I'm not going to get to know who God is.
Yeah.
And then the following next couple months, well, actually one of the godparents, is a friend of mine that I grew up with since 6th grade. He became a Christian before I did, and he started attending Pastor Nate's church at that time, Encounter Church.
All right.
And him and some other friends of mine, his older brother and another friend of mine that we also grew up since 6th grade together. These guys are like family to me. They saw the position I was in. They saw how broken I was. I had mentioned it to him a couple times. I was just planning on ending it. I was just done with life. And he started inviting me to come to church. And I was like, bro, you saw what happened. Why are you asking me to go through this again? And I was like, no, brother, it's not the same.
Huh.
I'm telling you, it's not the same. And for a whole year, these guys would invite me over and over. Come on, just come with us. Come with us. I was like, no, it's not. No, I'm not going to allow them to do that to me again. So I built this wall up. I was on the defensive against the church because they attacked me. when I was the most down. And I was like, no, I can't. I'm not going to allow myself to that to happen to me again. And then, gosh, these dudes, they knew how to get to me. So, like I said about gangs, one of the things that I was seeking out of it was family. And that's what they were to me, family. So they used the family card. They're like, okay, just do it for us. Do it for us.
Wow.
They knew I loved them. So they knew that was going to work. So I was all right, man. You know what? I love you guys, and I'll do it for you. Man, we went. And I know you guys have heard this from other brothers and sisters, but when we heard Pastor Nate preach the gospel, we felt like he was speaking directly to us.
Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
What we were going through at the very moment in our lives. But me being hard-headed, I was like, oh, that was a coincidence. Right? I looked at my wife, I'm like, that's a coincidence. Come on, it has to be. This guy's probably told the pastor what I was going through. Because they were close. It was, it's a small church, and it was a family. So I was like, yeah, they told them, We come back the next week, it happens again.
Wow.
Come back the next week, it happens again. And I was like, okay, what are the odds now? So, at this time, my younger brother, he's coming out of prison. He just had done about 6 years. And me and him were the closest ones out of the siblings. I mean, you could not come up to this kid and try to harm him in any way without me wanting to kill you.
Yep.
Straight up. Because at one point in my life, it was my older brother, me, and him. That was it. My older brother was my mom and my dad for years. Our parents were split up. They were gone. They were out of our lives for a good while. And they were dealing with addiction. My dad was an alcoholic and a gambler. My mom had, drug problems. So it was just us. So we looked out for each other, and so he was coming out of prison out of doing a couple of years that I hadn't seen him. Cause they don't allow criminals. That's how, the government's going to see me. So totally. I'm a ex-gang member at that time already to go visit another criminal. So that's just the way they see it. So I didn't see him for a while, man. And, he just had barely gotten out. I was going to church. I was hearing who God finally was. I was getting to know God finally for the first time in my life. And he's out for about not even a month. And he gets pulled over. DUI. He was drinking. He just got out in parole. And I'm like, oh gosh, he's going back.
Oh man.
I'm like, and the cycle continues. That's going in my head. The cycle continues. It was a Saturday. And on Saturdays, we used to have prayer at Pastor Nate's church. We used to get together and we just pray. Pray things that are going on in the nation. Pray for the leaders of the nation. Just pray for one another. Pray for the church. And dude, we would just get down in prayer. And, me not at the time yet. This is barely like my month and I'm still like trying to see if this is still a coincidence of like him speaking directly to our lives. And me fearing that my brother was going, I was like, this is it. I'm done. I'm done with this life. I called my buddy. I'm like, hey, are we having prayer today? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And he knew something was going. He's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I'll talk to you once I'm there.
Yeah.
So I get there, and he can see it. He knows it. Like I said, we've known each other since 6th grade. And he's like, what's going on? So I tell him, like, man, I think my younger brother is about to say his name. I think my younger brother is going back to prison, man. And he's like, oh man. And we get into prayer and I break down. And there I cried out to God again. But there my cry was, okay, God, if this is you who I've been hearing that you are this last month, you know what? Here I am.
Amen. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't want anything else in this world but you.
Gosh.
I want you who I've been hearing of this last month. I want you. That's it. I don't want nothing else. Just take all this. Here it is. Take all this that I'm dealing with, and I'm here. And, brother, I have not been the same man since that day. Nowhere near as close. I bump into people that I've known from the past, and they're just like, I don't know, they're like, who are you? You know, they'll come up to me, they're, oh, what's up? You know, and they shake my hands, they're like, you know, what you been up to, this and this and that. And they get to know, they see where I'm at now, and they're just like, I mean, they're speechless.
That's
you
so
know?
cool.
And, yeah, man, I mean, it's just ever since that day, I honestly I told God, like, I'm here for you.
Amen.
Nothing else. Cause like I said, I just lived this life of just hell. Just straight up hell. You know, and then I'm finally hearing the gospel being preached for the first time in my life. And that shows the power that there is in the gospel, in the word of God. The power of salvation that there is in Christ through his gospel. And it just, you know, I wouldn't be the man I am today.
Amen.
Without him.
We're glad for it. We're glad.
Yeah. I noticed two things. One is thank the Lord for your friends who said, who are willing to say, hey, come be a part of this church because we're asking you as your family, you know?
Yep.
And thank God for them doing that, not out of compulsion to make you become like them, but because they cared for you. And, you know, they wanted to see you prosper, and they knew that your life would change with Christ in it. That's so awesome. And the other thing I noticed is just like, man, as somebody, if I were somebody who is a racist, even though I don't admit it, and wants to build a wall and believes in all of these things, wouldn't it be worth it to just completely rethink everything to hear more stories like yours? Just to hear somebody coming to God and, like you said, saying, God, I'm here for you. Like, whatever happens, I'm here for you. Gosh, that is, like, beautiful.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And what I wouldn't give to hear more stories like that, and I would certainly give up my rights as if I were a Republican or a conservative or whatever, I would give up all those rights to hear more stories like that. That's amazing, man.
All right, so, audience, if it sounded like Sean was starting up a car, that was just the air conditioning in the back.
Yeah, it's so hot in here.
Secondly, so we're grateful for Jesus as a brother and as a friend, but we need to ask him the ultimate question that we ask all Christians.
Dun, dun, dun.
I want to
that's
ask
true.
this first, though, because I want to do it because some people aren't. Are you a dessert guy or not? Because we can go salty foods if you're not a dessert guy. Are you a dessert guy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, because I'm going to start asking if people go, oh, I'm not a dessert guy. I actually came up with an alternative we can ask some other time of.
I need to hear it.
So, the big argument often is pizza. People go, do you like New York pizza or do you like Chicago deep dish, which is like a mile of like sauce versus New York is just, you know, all that. So I'm going to start having that. If someone's not a sweets person, I'll ask them a pizza question or a hamburger or maybe even a steak question. I bet I could ask them. Like,
That's a good idea.
because some people aren't. Like, I like dessert, but I'm more carbs. I like greasy.
I would say go with the steak more.
Go with the steak?
And the temperature.
Yeah. Do you
Yes.
like it well done, or do you like some pink in it, or and I want to know what people think a spice is. They go, oh, I put salt on it. Or do they put garlic? You know this is true. It's like Chadwick Boseman, that sketch on SNL. He's like, she doesn't even put paprika on the salad. Like, yeah. I'll give you the dessert question. Okay, and this has divided Christians for centuries. So, pie or cake, Jesus?
Okay.
Well,
check
and
this
there's
out.
Grace. We love you no matter what.
Okay, check this out. All right. Pie. But wait. I hate cake. I honestly, since I was a little kid, I hated cake.
Amen.
I hated it. But wait, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. I hated cakes. I hate the frosting on it. And I hate the bread too.
Yeah.
It sucks. But Tres Leches, made right, let's be more specific. Tres Leches made by my wife.
Ooh.
There you go.
Because she doesn't make it with that super sugary, stuff on top. Like, she makes it all by hand. Everything.
I'm hungry now.
You know, that's the only cake I'll eat. It's a good made Tres Leches made by my wife. Or made right.
Yeah.
At that. Because I just hate really sugary cake. It's like,
Ugh.
it hurts my teeth.
It's
Yeah.
like
I'll
90% bread.
Yeah.
Like 90, yeah.
Yeah,
And the
90%. And
frosting
then
is like,
10%,
you can
and it's all
feel the
sugar.
in it.
Yeah.
It's all sugar. It really is. It tastes horrible.
I
I've
agree
had-
with him, actually. That's...
No, I've had the best I can tell, authentic Tres Leches, and it is good.
It's good.
It's really good.
With all the fruit in it?
With fruit like around the center and then a little bit in the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's like so moist. It's not
It
cake.
wasn't
It's
super
not
dry.
Like what
It's
I
not,
know
yeah.
cake, yeah.
No.
It's like I can't even believe it can keep its shape because it's so
It has to be made right.
Oh, it's so amazing. So Tres Leches is the one thing that I feel like is redeemable. A lot of people will come in here and say, "Oh, funfetti or pancakes or
I cop
cheesecake."
out with cheesecake because I like
But the thing is,
strawberries
cheesecake
on it.
is more like a pie,
Yeah.
I think, than anything. And
guess
Seth,
where's
I don't think you've had Tres Leches.
No, I have.
Oh, you have?
Renee, you remember Renee?
Yeah.
All right, so Renee is from Mazatlan. I won't say his sports team because he argues with everyone else. But he told me about it, and then, what was it? A friend of a friend's grandma made it when I came to their house. And
So
I was
good.
like,
So
this
there's
is pretty
different
dope.
ways too, though. I mean, depending on what part of Mexico they were born and raised.
They were from
there's-
Mazatlan.
You know, there's I don't know exactly what
There's
the
a
difference is, but
Norteño and a
yeah.
The Serrania one had a razor blade in it. I was like, I don't know, man. Like,
Oh gosh.
no. I
that was
totally
years
agree.
ago. I had 8 years ago. So,
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
But you still say pie. Though.
Yeah, definitely, because there's a lot more pies that I like. That's the only cake I like. So
It's because you're a Christian. You're reformed.
we'd like to thank all our sponsors, The Rapture,
yeah.
Newports, Jerry Falwell, who doesn't listen to this, Kirk Cameron, and
does
our
listen.
listener. Where's your cousin Africa? We have listeners in Africa
Yeah, I have a cousin in
and
Africa.
Norway.
She'll be a guest eventually, and then
we'll have her over
Norway. I don't know.
They're just
them.
weirdos. Those are the weird whites. You got dusty whites, rich. Norway is those are like the cave dwelling whites.
Buttery whites.
Buttery whites.
But
Oh, hey, one more thing.
yeah.
You guys joining the Space Force? Because I am.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
man.
dude. To
I'm gonna be a
defend the
gunner.
planet? Yes.
Yes.
I
I'm gonna
will.
be a door
I always
gunner.
wanted to be Buzz Lightyear.
Dude.
Always.
How cool would it be if they do that? And they're finally, Mike Mumford would be so happy. There finally is aliens and we're the front line. And I even join it. I'll join it as a joke. And then we actually have to fight. I'm like, oh crap.
God.
I didn't think I'd actually have to fight anyone
Oh
up
my
here.
gosh, I cannot wait. I remember how passionately we played Halo.
I'll do it.
That's the Space Force right there.
Right?
Halo, Battlestar Galactica,
Space Hulk.
Space Hulk,
You're a Space Marine.
Space.
We're going to be some Starship Troopers, is what we're going to be.
That's right.
We're going to be, all right.
Oh, yeah.
The three of us are going to be in the station. We've had 5 years off. And then a ship comes and I'm bumbling for my gun and try and put down my beer and I will shoot the window and we'll get sucked down to space
Oh
or
my
something. I
gosh,
don't know.
the Space Force. Here's the thing. We talk about nuance a lot on this show. Donald Trump. I'm not a huge fan of Donald Trump. but the Space Force, I can
Dude.
get behind that.
I will.
Yeah. I'm willing to pay. I'm willing to pay to join.
Yes.
Dude,
So good.
on your resume, defending the planet Earth from aliens.
Yes, exactly.
They're like, I guess you can work at Baskin Robbins. That's
Oh my
okay.
gosh, I want to be a gunner who sits on the wing of the shuttle.
All right.
Okay, well, one more sponsor. Thank you, Sylvia Garcia, for the
Oh, yeah,
cigars
for
we
cigars.
had this evening.
The
from
one person who gave us
Fumare.
$5, the person who broke into Sean's property and left the letter.
Yeah. Greg,
Yeah.
we
Greg.
hope to see you again one day.
Come back, Greg. Come back. We miss
back.
you.
And that's it?
Zip it up!
You can say it.
Sip it down.
Awesome.
Oh, dude. So, I will chip in for a swamp cooler, dude. I'm down.